It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for The Walking Dead's untitled movie, known at this point as the Rick Grimes movie. So in this video, we're going to be looking at some new articles that were released that confirm or potentially confirm a time skip in the movies when it comes to Rick's story, based off of where we left off with the story in Season 9, Episode 5. And later on in this video, we're going to be looking at an article to an interview done with Scott Gimple, the previous showrunner and the person currently responsible for the entire Walking Dead universe when it comes to movies, TV shows, and things like that, not the comic book. So we're going to look at that interview and what that reveals, and that's going to be connected to the CRM group, who are the group that are going to be in the movie. We don't know what CRM stands for, but we know that there's a group called CRM, and whether or not the CRM and Commonwealth from the comics have any sort of connection. So we're going to talk about that later on. But first of all, I want to show you guys this. So of course, this was in the teaser that was released for the Walking Dead movies. So of course, right off the bat, the first thing that really pops out at you is the silhouette of the city in the background, which is hinting that the CRM group are going to be in that city, or they're going to own the entire city. But a lot of people brought this up that it looks like Philadelphia, and that confirms that CRM is located in Philadelphia, which is entirely possible. There's actually multiple theories out there related to that. Now, I'm not going to talk about any of that because those are just speculations and theories, and I have my own theory, which I did go over and discuss. You can go and check it out if you're interested. The link will drop on the top right for that video. But the other things that do pop out at you is the tri-circle symbol that we see on top of the Walking Dead title card. So we see the three circles, or the three overlapping circles, which was not only on the helicopter that took Rick away, but also the helicopter that Isabel was flying on Fear the Walking Dead. Obviously, Isabel was also from the CRM community, so there's the connection there. But that symbol was also on the maps that Althea in Fear the Walking Dead found. We don't know what the three circles really mean. It has to be something big because it's repeatedly showing up everywhere when we're looking at the movies. The other thing that was mentioned is that there seems to be a wall around Philadelphia. We can see right there. So it seems like there's a wall surrounding the city, which could explain why the city is so safe, because you would think that it would be overrun by walkers. But if they set up the walls pretty early on during the apocalypse, then there's less chance of a big herd of walkers being inside that they had to deal with before they cleared the entire city. But that's basically everything we know from the teaser itself. So now I'm going to jump right into the articles. So the first article we're going to look at comes from comicbook.com. So the Walking Dead movie producer addresses Rick Grimes' Commonwealth theory. So that's something we're going to visit later on. But as part of this, they actually talked to Andrew Lincoln and asked him about the Rick Grimes movie. And there is something very interesting that he brings up here, which I do want to go over. So Lincoln added that it's maybe the start of a bigger story, when suggesting the movie trilogy will continue and then complete Rick's journey. Lincoln compared the stepping off point to Clint Eastwood Western Unforgiven. First thing I do want to say, when they're talking about continuing and then completing Rick's story, that's basically connected to how Rick's story ended in the comics. So that's how Rick Grimes' story is going to end in the movies, or his journey is going to end, which we don't necessarily know if that's where they're going with it. It's very interesting because they say Lincoln compared the stepping off point to Clint Eastwood Western Unforgiven. Now, I haven't seen the film, but Andrew Lincoln explains what he means by that comparison right here. If you've seen the beginning, there's a pig farm, and he falls over in the stall. He's chasing pigs, and you go, wait a minute, this is a gunslinger. The most badass gunslinger ever. And he's covered in excrement. But you know what he's capable of because he's Clint Eastwood. You've seen his other movies. And him being a man with no name, Lincoln told EW. So that's basically hinting that we might see a time jump. And when we start the movie, we're not going to be seeing what happened to Rick where we left off. So we're not going to see Jadis and Rick in the helicopter being brought back to the CRM. What we are potentially going to see, or we might see based on what he's hinting at, is that there's going to be a time that's going to have passed And we're gonna see Rick in an unusual spot, in an unusual setting, in a unusual sort of role. Comparing it, of course, to the gunslinger that's in the farm. So we might potentially see Rick in a different type of a role. Potentially, and this is where my interest levels are raised, is we might see Rick in a position where he's like a soldier at the CRM. So we start the movie, it's Rick Grimes, and he's a soldier. And maybe this would be completely shocking and interesting if they have him partnering up with none other than Isabel, who we saw in Fear the Walking Dead. And the movie starts with Rick and Isabel going on a mission. They're both soldiers. And maybe throughout the movie, you'll explain, what happened from the time when Rick came to the CRM to now. Fill the gap as you go along. And you could potentially, maybe with flashbacks or whatever, explore what's been keeping Rick there the entire time. And I think that's a very interesting spot to start the story, the movie. It's definitely shocking. It's definitely surprising because we are expecting Rick to start where we left off, with him being taken to CRM. But they are hinting that this may not be where they're going with it. Now, there's a part of me that's disappointed because I don't want to see Rick just as a regular soldier being pushed around. I want to see the badass Rick Grimes from the TV show. But another part of me understands because of the comparison that they brought up. Because like Andrew Lincoln kind of explained with the comparison, we are looking at this guy who seems like he's just a regular soldier at the CRM. But we know who he is. We know what he's capable of. We know the type of badass he is. So I think that's also interesting, and they could go multiple ways with that. So I'm torn. I'm split on this because there's a part of me that really loves that idea, but there's a part of me that's disappointed a little bit. He goes on to say, I like that as a starting point. And I thought, well, this is interesting. If you've got an audience that knows this character and you find him in a new place, in a new whatever that may look like, and he's not the same guy, but you know what's inside of him, I thought that that's quite an interesting starting point. And like I said, I agree with that, and I am definitely intrigued about that idea, but at the same time, I am a little bit disappointed. Now, obviously, he must have seen the script or known the plot points to be able to come out and say this. I don't think he would just say this and not have known how the story starts. So it's not like we're speculating here. It seems like he really knows where the story is going, more specifically where it starts, to be putting this out there. But to me, that's very interesting. I found that very interesting. But I want to know everyone's opinions about that. Let me know what you think about the idea of Rick being like a soldier at the CRM and for us to start the movie with the time skip. Now, I'm going to move on to another article that comes from Collider. And for this particular one, I'm just going to go over a quote from Scott Gimple. So Scott Gimple says, it is really important for the audience to know that we are going to be continuing to tell the story of Rick Grimes in this AMC Studio original films. We don't want this thing to be like, oh well, he'll be back on the show any moment now. We are telling Rick's story in another medium. And it's going to be these AMC Studio original films. They're going to be on AMC, most probably. They're centered around Rick Grimes. Now that's very interesting because he says they're going to be on AMC, most probably, but they're saying they're studio original films, which is interesting. So they're contradicting themselves a little bit. But he says they're centered around Rick Grimes. At least the first one, I think, has to be centered around Rick Grimes. The other two may not necessarily, but we won't know until we know a little bit more about what the movies are going to be about. But I'm going to continue here. We're going to tell the story of what happens after that helicopter flight. And these are going to be big, epic entertainments. Each are quality films. That's what's been happening in the industry. We've seen Netflix make these, basically studio films for people to watch in their homes. And we're going to be doing the same sort of thing here. We are talking about a trilogy for this Rick Grimes story. It doesn't necessarily mean it's only Rick Grimes stories we're ever going to tell. And also, they're probably not going to be the only movies that we want to tell or that we tell. So that's hinting that we will see future movies, which is great. I am very excited about those. Now, you could do a lot with that. You could do a Michonne story or movie. You could do a Negan movie. They could do a lot with that. The Rick Grimes story, of course, is the biggest thing that we're doing right off the bat. But we're going to be doing a number of different Walking Dead things over the next few years. A universe of stuff. We're not going to release it all at once. we're going to be putting these things out over the years for maximum effect. We don't want to overwhelm folks with it. So that's very interesting. So they have a long-term plan, which I'm definitely interested to get little by little. So it seems like the main message is that the story right now, or the movies right now, are going to be focused on Rick Grimes, but they're not going to necessarily focus on Rick going forward, maybe after the first 2 films. And also, we might see more movies, or we will see more movies later on, and that it's not going to stop with these 3 movies. So that's definitely exciting. Now I'm going to look into what was revealed about CRM and its connection to Commonwealth. So I'm going to read a short piece of quote from Scott Gimple and also from Angela Kang. So this is what they're saying. The Walking Dead movie writer, producer, and The Walking Dead chief content officer, Scott Gimple, has shot down theories the missing Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln, has been relocated to the Commonwealth. No, it does not. Gimple said at San Diego Comic-Con Friday when asked if the helicopter seen on both The Walking Dead and spin-off Fear the Walking Dead has anything to do with the Commonwealth, a community seen so far only in Robert Kirkman's comic book. It is not related, really emphatically. So, if we are to believe Scott Gimple, which is not easy because he does dance around ideas a lot and he does tend to lie a lot when it comes to future storylines because he doesn't want to reveal stuff or spoil stuff. But if we are to trust him, then they're not related. But at this point, I'm leaving like a 5% chance that he's lying to us. But comicbook.com speculated the movie's teaser trailer premiered at Comic-Con. Hints Rick was taken to Philadelphia while in the possession of the CRM organization, seen on both The Walking Dead and Fear. We talked about that. So now I'm going to jump into a quote from Angela Kang. Obviously, the Commonwealth does mean things to people. We are starting to see it in some future stories, showrunner Angela Kang previously told IGN after a Commonwealth Easter egg surfaced in Season 9. The timing of those stories may not be in the immediate future, but there will be things in Season 9 that are groundwork being laid for finding out more about the world. So it seems like with the radio that was there at the end of Season 9, it did definitely tease at the Commonwealth. So if we are to believe both Angela Kang and Scott Gimple, then not only is the CRM organization different from the Commonwealth from the comic book, but also they may not be coming up as early as we think they are, the Commonwealth, which is very interesting. But I want to know everyone's opinions about everything that we just talked about in this video. What's your predictions about what each movie is going to concentrate on and what the potential plot point of the stories could be? That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video. If you like what you see, press like, subscribe for more content, and press the bell button to receive notifications for daily uploads.